then underline one thing. Conflict structures people's minds, as I mentioned. Conflict tends to structure people's minds, and conflict has all over, and I've seen many much worse than this one, by the way, much more fresh blood, fresh dying, and so on. But conflict has an effect on people's mind because it privileges a certain dichotomy. So the dichotomy that matters become us versus them. And that's true for the people who are conflicted, but it's even in a sense it's forced upon the people who are trying to solve things. That you're driven to think about things as what about Greeks and Turkish with. That's one of a myriad of things that distinguishes people. We have a lot of we have women and men, for instance. We have young and old, we have urban and rural, rich and poor, left and right. There's so many things that create diversity and difference, but the conflict will say that one is more important than the others. And one consequence of that, typically, is that it privileges men and elderly people. Because it's actually not a coincidence that, let me say, I'll speak generically, a country in conflict will typically have more male leaders and more elderly leaders than a non-conflictual society, because it's easier to focus all these other issues when conflict has been overcome. And actually that's an argument for people, even for people who may not think so much about the side probe as such, but just to understand that the continuation of this creates a whole cottage industry, in a sense, of non-solution, non-recognition. It's a lot of talent that is spent on not solving the problem. And imagine that you release all that talent to do something more useful than not solving a problem. There's vast opportunities for these people if they could sort of redirect their energies into something let's say, even more creative and even more productive than this. But this is an argument for why we should be careful about conflict. I should say, this is an optimistic group, an optimistic tone, and there's great opportunity, but this opportunity must be grasped. Not only is it the best one in a long time, but you may have to wait very long to see it occur again, if it's not grasped this time. There are very dark clouds over the neighborhood. The international scene has just been getting worse as the side probe has been getting better. It's quite paradoxical, and we actually talk about it at the table. We have had this for half a year now. It's not that every day has been rosy and every single day has brought a marvelous breakthrough, not at all. But the general trajectory has been moving forward in a structured, steady manner. While we look out and there's terrorism, there's IS, there's a conflict between Russia and Turkey, a political conflict, there's deep challenges to the global economy, massive disruption in many industries. All these things are happening around us as we deal with this. And I always end up with the same conclusion. Grasp this opportunity, do it now, get it right. Get this new state in place. Get the federal United Cyprus on its feet, because you will be much better prepared, all of you, whether you want to go into politics or stay as long away from politics as you can, which I also would understand. But for whatever you do, it will be much easier to do it if you get over the problem. And that's why we need the voice of the young, and that's why it's you, in the end of the day, who have to shape Cyprus. Thanks for the attention.
So imagine the economic employment potential of bringing together two economies, two operators, and new investors coming in. There will be joint projects towards Turkey, to EU, to neighboring countries. There will be synergies of the solution by linking the two economies. Just again, imagine how the synergies will be occurring. Now, we will need to rebrand our country, our economy, for investment, for tourism, for everything. The way Spain did in 1980s, if I'm not mistaken. And we need to give a message of unity, multiculturalism, and reconciliation to the world. And of course, this again will bring many researchers as well. Imagine all those peace studies will be taking place in Cyprus. all over the years, they were bringing the Irish people in, the South African people in, and now it's time to send Cypriots out to tell our people. And of course, our biggest asset is the young Cypriots. It's us, it's you. I don't know if me, but this is the biggest asset. You are the biggest asset, and you have to take it in your own hands. Before going to the closure, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I just want to talk to you about the concept of future past. You can talk about past. We know we've been talking about past a lot. We can project the future, but I want you to go to the future in 20 years' time and look at past. Imagine how you are going to see today in 20 years' time. And this will itself give you a perspective. And entrepreneurship, no. These are just some of the opportunities that the solution will bring to you. So it is up to your creative minds to think where you can see yourself in this particular solution. Where you can establish a business, it doesn't have to be economic, where you can be maximizing your human potential, where if you want to do art, what kind of an art can it be in the University of Cyprus, you don't limit yourself. And I don't want to limit you with my words. So before I finalize, we were having some conversation with Vasilis before coming to the stage, and you see, we agree that the politicians are the ones to blame sometimes, but I think it's also us to take the responsibility and remember that politicians will follow us if we really take the right direction. Thank you very much.
Financial, shipping and service-related sectors, the investment climate has not been lucrative to attract serious foreign investors. So what will Cyprus look like in 10 years' time? Do we get to have a second bite of the cherry? The answer to this depends entirely on which politicians you, the next generation of post-solution Cypriots, choose as your leaders. If you allow ethnic and religious biases and nationalism to foster, as we did in our generation, then you only have to look at the failed states surrounding Cyprus to conclude that Cyprus will not last even a decade. For prosperity to take root, our inborn tendency for one community to dominate the other and splitting them apart should be avoided at all costs. If we do not fully integrate our societies, Cyprus will remain weak and prey to much larger and stronger competitors. Our only hope to avoid the pitfalls and resist our natural instincts of hubris and dubious party politics is to show our doubtful population that economic prosperity is the answer. To maintain growth and prosperity, we have to cultivate and support a culture of meritocracy, tolerance, and applying the rule of law and democratic values. If our aim is to become the Singapore of the Middle East, and it could well be within our means, then we have to project a different image of Cyprus than the one we have today. Cyprus needs to take a long, hard look at itself and decide which economic model it is best suited to follow in today's competitive world. If, in my view, we choose a model based on a liberal free market economy, we should attune our institutions and policies to offer the best and most efficient means of doing business in Cyprus. We should aim to brand Cyprus as the most business-friendly country in Europe, and the state should facilitate this goal by removing all bureaucratic obstacles while maintaining strict vigilance. The new Federal Republic will offer a chance to remodel our economy on new foundations with an aim of attracting value-added investments. We must accept that economic growth is the only route out of our current malaise, and this growth cannot be achieved by adding to our already exorbitant government debt, which will be under pressure with post-unification funding. Sustainable growth will be achieved when foreign investors feel certain that Cyprus has corrected its erratic policies of the past and offers long-term stability and potential for reward. Entrepreneurship should be the glue that integrates our two communities and should act as a magnet to foreign capital. Again, just like Singapore, Cyprus should first understand the comparative and strategic advantages that we have to offer and target those industries and funds which will add most value to our economy. With smart choices, Cyprus entrepreneurs can offer international corporations an oasis of stability and security in a geographic region steeped with violence and unpredictability. 10 years from now, a new generation of Cypriot business people will see nothing like today's lot, no longer lining up to join the ranks of the civil service or the well-protected banking sector. Greek and Turkish Cypriot entrepreneurs would set their sights on new horizons, working together in the private sector or in large multinationals. These will have made Cyprus their base, benefiting from Cyprus's unique location, a pool of well-educated multilingual population, low tax status and export benefits. Greek and Turkish Cypriot partnerships and joint ventures will spring up like mushrooms as trust and opportunities help overcome suspicions and distrust. The benefits to both communities will become visible very quickly. Larger and more efficient companies will cooperate and take advantage of economies of scale rather than compete against each other in a single united market. Multilingual skills and cultural diversity will offer access to every corner of Cyprus and will help cement bonds between Greek and Turkish Cypriot business people and employees within corporations. Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot products and brands will find access to Turkey and Greece through trading firms using existing networks. If Turkey manages to temper its autocratic nationalistic tendencies, it will join the ranks of the G10. Tourism to and from Turkey, merchant shipping, international investment in education and medical centers, as well as research and development, and Cyprus will be vying with Singapore as the easiest place to do business by 2025. Ultimately, it is up to all of us, but mostly you, the next generation of Cypriots, to make the smart choices that would steer our common country to stability and long-term prosperity. Choices that would help propel Cyprus to the first world in 10 short years. If we don't, we will keep Cyprus hostage to our own poor choices. Thank you very much.
It's just problems. Rather, just like you're kicking the ball towards us, expecting us to solve the unresolved problems. And I was just wondering if you're really just capable of handling the issues today.
The problems, as you say, if I were in any position of power, I wouldn't push the problem down to the next generation. I would just step aside and allow the obstacles to be removed so the private sector finds ways to integrate between the two communities, and the energy that will create will immediately create a momentum for creating a dynamic economy. Trying to play the role of a nanny state where the government or the federal government puts conditions on what and if happens between the two communities, we will get to the position of two separate communities, and that will lead to a failed state.
Just a small remark. I'm 40 years old, by the way, everybody's wondering. But I think the very reason why we are here is to make sure that the future generations do not have the same problems that we have encountered in the past. And so that maybe in 10, 20 years' time, their problems will be more globally related, like to contribute into the discussions in the global warming, rather than discussing a specific Cyprus problem. And I think this is the whole aim of what we're trying to.
In case there's a quick question, we'll take another quick question.
Ms. Vasily.
No, it's not a question. Can I make a comment? Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Congratulations to both of you. I think the main